Okay, so another way in which Mr. Cabana's lesson could be redesigned is by taking the same activity but changing it so that it is instead applied to the class as a whole. So no longer broken into small groups, but taken and applied to the entire class. In this sense, the lesson would be redesigned so that it's more resembling of a Socratic seminar where students interact with one another but as an entire class. So instead of sharing their ideas with just 3 or 4 of their classmates, students are instead sharing their ideas with their entire class. And in that situation, students would serve as each other's scaffolding. So as an entire class, the whole class would serve as the scaffolding for the idea of apprenticeship, in which case that being for the goal of it's same thing, solving for an unknown equation given some variables, in addition to having Mr. Cabana there to answer questions. So still having Mr. Cabana available to the entire class to answer questions that students might have. So opening this activity to the whole class would make it possible also for Mr. Cabana to ask what situations an equation should be applied to in real life. Instead of providing the details and a backstory to each question, as we see in the video, so in group test, when students read out their question, they already have details of what the question entails. Instead, Mr. Cabana could provide just the variables for a given equation, have students still solve for that equation, and then once students accomplish this as a class, Mr. Cabana could then ask what the equation could be applied to in real life. So say they are they're using the given variables to solve for an unknown equation that would then actually in real life be applied to the cost of attending university. This would tie directly into the idea that Scott and Palinskar articulate in their article, that greater attention should be given to what students bring in terms of previous knowledge when teachers create a curriculum that opens up a third space for students. So that third space being where students can take their out-of-school experiences and apply them to their in-school experiences. So tying the two together. So in this case, having students take their in-school experience of knowing given variables, solving for an equation, being able to do that, and then applying it to real life as it pertains to them. In this activity, Mr. Cabana would assess students informally. So the activity as a whole would serve as a formative assessment, perhaps preparing them for an exam such as the one we see in group test. The steps that students take to solve for the equation, the actual solving of the equation, so the proper students finding the exact equation necessary, and then the successful application of that equation to real life would serve as the criteria through which Mr. Cabana would assess whether students have met the learning objective.